Legends about hypnosis are often known as a form of magic that uses singing to haunt others, through cinematic footage or folk tales passed down through generations. It is a form of psychological manipulation, where the manipulator controls and directs the victim according to their will by using techniques that affect their physical and mental state. However, in reality, that period was not like that at all. Hypnosis is a fairly common medical treatment method that can be applied to treat many health problems, including special therapies such as past life regression hypnosis. Past life regression hypnosis is a psychological therapy method that uses the hypnotic state to help patients recall memories believed to be from previous lives. According to therapists using past life regression hypnosis, many mental health issues that patients face, such as anxiety disorders, emotional disorders, or depression, may originate from experiences in past lives. This may stem from trauma or shocks from past lives. Today, we will explore the mysteries of past life regression hypnosis by answering the most basic questions about this method. Nice to see you again in the latest video from Primitive Universe with the theme, Decoding the Art of Past Life Regression Hypnosis. To not waste everyone's time, we will get straight to the main issue right after this. To understand the truth behind past life regression hypnosis, we need to analyze carefully to identify the key issues that need clarification. First, past life regression is a method of retrieving memories from previous lives. This only makes sense if we acknowledge that past lives truly exist. In this section, we will address two core issues: examining the feasibility of the theory of reincarnation across theoretical, cultural, and historical aspects. And if so, is there any actual evidence proving it always exists? After answering the above two questions, the next issue we need to explore is, how is past life regression hypnosis therapy conducted? And does it pose any danger to humans? First, it can be said that reincarnation is a belief that has existed for a very long time. In ancient Greece, pre-Socratic thinkers proposed the hypothesis of the soul, suggesting that after the body dies, the soul moves to a newly born body. These beliefs received little attention in Western societies, but in the East, they became quite popular and prominent. We can see this clearly during the Vedic period and later, through some major religious reforms initiated by the Buddha and Mahavira. However, very early on, some scholars realized that, regardless of actual evidence, there were many opinions opposing the phenomenon of reincarnation. The most notable concern is the inadequacy in the issue of population growth. Over 8,000 years BC, Earth was home to about 5 million primates with highly developed brains. Yet today, that number has reached over 8 billion people. So if reincarnation truly exists, why isn't the number of souls always constant, but instead increases or decreases? Because when a person dies, their soul still exists and is not destroyed. And when a person is born, their soul is not new. It is moving from another body to this one. How should this population increase from 5 million to 8 billion souls be explained? Where do these additional souls come from? Actually, this argument is not difficult to refute. According to reincarnation theory, there is no basis to assert that a new soul cannot be born. Even if the number of souls is immutable, some of them could still exist in an undetectable state, while waiting for a new body to be created as the population increases. Stopping there, according to Hindu belief, reincarnation is not limited to between humans and humans, but occurs among all living beings. Therefore, souls can also enter animal bodies while waiting for a new human body to be born. However, there are other scientific explanations that do not support the theory of reincarnation at all. If reincarnation truly exists, an obvious fact is that most of us cannot remember our past lives. And without memories from past lives, how can we affirm that a person in the present is the same person who lived in a past life? Regarding this issue, perhaps we all know that there needs to be a criterion to definitively determine that a person at one time is the same person at another time. Not just physical manifestations, such as appearance or physique. A person does not necessarily need to maintain a continuous connection with their physical body to be considered a unique self. They only need a seamless continuity in memory. Philosopher John Locke once said, "If a prince wakes up in the body of a shoemaker but retains the memories of a prince, he is still a prince." Continuity of memory. No one remembers anything about their past life, so can we consider that the same person? Supporters of the reincarnation theory argue that our inability to remember the early days of our birth does not mean that we and the infant version are two different individuals. A more understandable example is people with amnesia. Hao also remembers nothing about the past years of her life, but she is still a whole and unique individual. Psychologists point out an important psychological criterion for identity. If memories were connected continuously from one stage of life to another, our identity or self would be preserved intact. For example, in old age, you can recall memories from your youthful days, even childhood memories when you were a child. So it could be said that you are that child. However, in the case of reincarnation, we do not have such a chain of memories at all. Moreover, closely related to the concept of reincarnation, we also have issues concerning the existence of the soul. The theory of reincarnation holds that the soul is immortal, and after a person dies, that soul leaves the body to enter a new one when another life is born. However, if the soul is a mysterious form of matter, how can it interact with reality? In the 17th century, French philosopher René Descartes recognized this problem. He argued that the soul and body interact at a gland hidden deep within the brain. But today we know clearly that this is a misconception. The pineal gland has no cognitive function at all. In summary, theoretically, the existence of reincarnation seems to be a vague boundary, not clearly affirmable as real or not. But suppose it is real, is there any way we can prove it? Since the time of Plato, some philosophers have tried to provide evidence that seems to support the theory of reincarnation. Phaedo. Simply put, the sages viewed learning as a form of recollection. For example, human fears of darkness, snakes, or heights are remnants of obsessions from past lives. However, once again, reality opposes reincarnation. The fear of snakes likely provided a survival advantage in the African savanna, believed to be the cradle of humanity. Thus, this fear may be deeply ingrained and inherited through our genes. Essentially, the human brain may be genetically pre-programmed for certain psychological traits and some innate knowledge. Another scientific phenomenon often seen by many as evidence for the existence of the soul is the phenomenon of déjà vu. It is the strange feeling when experiencing a situation for the first time, yet feeling as if one has experienced it before. But that still seems insufficient to prove that familiarity originates from a past life. Some hypotheses suggest that the déjà vu phenomenon results from a time discrepancy in the brain's information processing. It is possible that one hemisphere receives information first, and only a short time later, the other hemisphere receives that information. In this case, the person mistakenly believes they are recalling an event, while in reality, it just happened a few milliseconds ago. Perhaps the most convincing evidence supporting the theory of reincarnation comes from the records of special cases by the famous American psychiatrist, Dr. Ian Stevenson. Writer Stevenson was very passionate about researching hypnosis. And he believed that the cause of many mental disorders could stem from unresolved conflicts from past lives. According to his assessment, many of these cases occur because, in a past life, the patient belonged to a different gender. He studied many cases of children who claimed they could remember their past lives. These cases came from all over the world, including India, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Brazil, Lebanon, and even the United States. In 45 studies on international travel destinations, Dr. Stevenson researched and documented nearly 3,000 cases of children who could recall experiences from their past lives. Children who remembered past lives summarized his famous research work in a book. Notably, this work is on a controversial topic and is considered unscientific. Dr. Stevenson's research works are not only widely recognized but also meticulously verified by the scientific community. Most agree that, through depicting space-time developments in his book series, he opened a new horizon in the understanding of humanity. Stevenson realized that these children developed attitudes and preferences beyond their age. They would not behave like an ordinary person. Many children had rude attitudes and speech toward their parents because they believed they were the reincarnation of their grandparents. Additionally, some children developed specific obsessions without experiencing any specific event that triggered them. Once again, he speculated that those obsessions originated from traumas in past lives. In most cases studied by Stevenson, these children were seen as the reincarnation of some members of the very family. However, in many other cases, these children were seen as the reincarnation of people whom even their families had never known. Some of these children could recount their past lives in such detail that it was inexplicable how they knew that information through ordinary channels. Besides memories, the appearance of these special cases also had a notable point. In most cases, these children claimed to have been someone who died tragically, and their birthmarks often matched the wounds that caused their past life death. If it were just a few isolated cases, they could be overlooked, but when the number is larger, we need to seriously consider them. Due to the broad scope and considerable depth of his research, we cannot list all of it here. However, we also cannot deny some shortcomings in his research process. First, Stevenson asserted that there is no convincing data supporting the hypothesis of eel migration. Stevenson seemed to have a quite clear viewpoint. He believed in the existence of the soul and only sought to prove it. This is a classic example of confirmation bias, where people continuously seek evidence only to reinforce their pre-existing beliefs, while forgetting to check whether it actually exists or not. Therefore, he would only detect abnormal cases while overlooking countless other normal ones. However, in the specific cases that Stevenson studied, evidence emerged that contradicted his own hypothesis. He will present another case to prove his point is correct. Moreover, the current predictive capability is also a concerning issue. In contrast to pseudoscientific theories, genuine scientific theories are capable of making testable predictions. True science is always based on the assumption that nature operates according to specific and repeatable laws. A more specific example is the scars of young children. We also expect that in the future, Stevenson will make more specific predictions about the location or characteristics of birthmarks in other reincarnation cases. However, no clues about the location or characteristics of those birthmarks were revealed. First, Stevenson not only studied the children but also listened to and analyzed the interpretations of the adults involved in his research. And surely, some of them also support reincarnation. Therefore, their beliefs or biases will directly affect the objectivity of the collected data. In fact, Stevenson rarely conversed with the children, partly because they were too shy to talk to a scientist. Generally, whenever news arrived that a child in some village claimed to remember their past life, Stevenson immediately went to study that case. From the time he received the news until he reached the village was a long, drawn-out period. During this time, the child's family might have had the opportunity to meet the family of the deceased. From there, they could gather information, which would then be passed on to the child. By the time Stevenson arrived, the child would likely be able to recount a few specific details. Inherent memory but were formed from information acquired during meetings about the deceased. But why would they act like that? The explanation is incredibly simple. It's all to attract attention. Many cases of reincarnated children can recall their past lives, that they were once born into poor families in countries where orthodox religious beliefs predominate. Just a little observation shows that their shirts are torn at the shoulders, and their pants are just hanging rags. A chance to be recognized, why wouldn't? When the child is brought into the observation forum, every action and gesture of theirs will be considered a manifestation of recalling their past life. And this has the effect of reinforcing and encouraging the child to speak more, to meet their parents' expectations. In the cases collected by Stevenson, there also seems to be a reliable correlation between cultural characteristics and how the cases are shaped. For example, in cultures that do not accept the notion that a person can reincarnate as the opposite gender, no child remembers a past life of a different gender. All the issues just mentioned show a serious flaw in Stevenson's research. It feels as though he is just trying to record snippets of dialogue to include in his book. Although initially, anecdotal evidence might be useful, later on, it lacks a solid enough foundation to build a viable hypothesis. Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer, once asserted that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Even though it is an extraordinary claim, Stevenson's investigations did not bring any special evidence. Therefore, those who believe in reincarnation continue to search for other evidence. What they are interested in next is innate talent. Talent can manifest in many different ways, but generally, most have a basic genetic foundation. Some proponents of reincarnation have argued that there are children with extraordinary talents that their families completely lack. This argument seems reasonable at first glance but actually violates a rather basic principle of Mendelian genetics. This law describes a trait that may disappear in one generation but reappear in another. The child's parents might carry a dominant gene that has not been expressed for a particular special talent. Many geniuses are often cited by reincarnation proponents as examples, most notably Mozart. No one can explain how such a young person could possess such refined and superior musical skills. They believe that Mozart must be the reincarnation of an exceptionally talented musician. But then, there's no need to explain it with lengthy words. It is very possible that Mozart had an especially sensitive auditory cortex, allowing him to develop his impressive musical talent from a young age. In summary, regarding the argument for reincarnation and its supporting evidence, anyone supporting this hypothesis must provide a satisfactory answer to this important question. Once again, we are faced with the problem of the interaction between the material and the immaterial. Nevertheless, the reincarnation hypothesis still faces some difficult conceptual and empirical evidence issues. But some psychiatrists still firmly use past life regression hypnosis therapy to treat certain mental disorders, especially phobias. So, what is past life regression hypnosis? And how is this process carried out? According to proponents of past life regression hypnosis, this therapy is defined as a method to resolve traumas or conflicts from previous lives. Suppose your dreams are filled with memories that seem not to belong to you. That is your consciousness recalling memories of past lives. Sometimes, memories of past lives can be overwhelming, especially if those memories are formed from trauma, including both psychological and physical aspects. They may manifest as baseless fears unrelated to your current life experiences. And perhaps, you might feel familiar with someone from the very first meeting. It feels as if you've known them your whole life, even an undeniable sense of intimacy. Have you ever stepped into an unfamiliar land and felt it was strangely familiar, even though you'd never been there before? The purpose of past life regression is to reveal these hidden memories by putting you into a hypnotic state. We will explore together some notable cases of past life regression hypnosis. First, there is the story of Arnold Brocksham's cases. Arnold Brocksham was a hypnotherapist from Wales, active around the 1970s. Over a period of 20 years, he hypnotized several hundred people and recorded what seemed to be descriptions of their past lives. What occurred during the past life regression experiments completely defied conventional human logic. His clients could recount in vivid detail the lives of people who lived hundreds of years ago. Although it sounds unbelievable, Brocksham collected over 400 tapes of hypnotized subjects recalling their past lives. Additionally, many events were documented in great detail by these cases for review, and verification results showed it was indeed a model case. According to Brocksham, this clear evidence strongly supports the ancient belief in reincarnation. A famous case often mentioned is that of Jane Evans. Her journey to discover past lives began in 1971 when she saw a sign that read, Anya. Brocksham believed that rheumatism is essentially a psychosomatic illness. Jane, a 32-year-old housewife from South Wales struggling with rheumatoid arthritis, found the statement astonishing. So, she decided to find a way to contact the person who made the sign. She managed to get in touch with this man through an introduction from a friend of her husband. She had been the wife of a schoolteacher, a photo engraver, a Jewish merchant murdered in the 12th century in York, and also a servant of a medieval French merchant. A close mate of Catherine of Aragon, Queen of England, who was a poor servant living in London throughout the Queen's reign. And she was also a female political prisoner in America in the 19th century. Jane Evans' reincarnation story and several other cases were revealed by BBC television producer Geoffrey Iverson in his book. Was There More Than One Life in 1975? While searching for images for the film, I noticed this film's case as a typical example of image usage. Was there another life in 1975? In the process of searching for evidence to verify the existence of reincarnation, Iverson asked Jane for permission to hypnotize her with the crystal ball once again. This time, the film crew included a camera and sound team from the BBC. Iverson wanted to find out if, in fact, she had more than one past life. Iverson studied the detailed descriptions of these lives and verified that Jane's accounts were indeed accurate. In the final part of the book, the author concludes that Brocksham's 20 years of work convincingly demonstrate the authenticity of reincarnation theory. The tapes of Brocksham. However, the most famous case in past life regression hypnosis must be Dr. Moray Benstead's therapy for a special patient. Moray Benstead is not an unfamiliar name in the American hypnosis community. He is widely known for using mind control skills to help a woman recall memories of her past lives. Moray Benstead was born in 1920 in Pueblo, Colorado, USA, and passed away in 1999 at the age of 79. The search for Bridie Murphy. The journey for Bridie Murphy tells the story of a man using mind control to help a woman recover what are believed to be memories from her past life. After graduating from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, Benstead returned to his home country and took over the family business. After operating a centralized scrap recycling facility, he shifted to investment brokerage. In the 1940s, at a party, Benstead witnessed his friend demonstrate hypnosis skills. The performance excited him greatly. From then on, he began to explore and teach himself the art of hypnosis with intense passion. According to many records, on November 29, 1952, amateur hypnotist Benstead decided to conduct an unprecedented experiment. The selected subject was one he deemed most suitable for the proposed method. This 29-year-old housewife was named Virginia Tigay. Cautious point. After the hypnosis session, Tigay unexpectedly spoke in a distinct Irish island accent, recounting his childhood memories, but memories from 2 centuries ago. After several meetings with Benstead, Tigay gradually recounted his life from bygone days. Bridget Murphy was born on December 20, 1798, in the vicinity of Cook Island City and passed away in 1864. The Denver Post at the time dedicated an entire article to writing about Tigay. The public outcry was so intense that it forced Benstead to write a book detailing the entire incident thoroughly. In Benstead's book, the character Tigay is actually a woman named Ruth Simmons. This book held the bestseller position for 26 consecutive weeks and was even adapted into a film. The sudden fame completely changed the lives of both Benstead and Tigay. Pastors from everywhere sought out Tigay one after another to pray for her soul. Crowds kept coming in succession, hoping to catch a glimpse of Tigay's face in real life. After many investigations, it still couldn't be verified whether Bridie Murphy was a real historical figure. However, Benstead persistently asserted that the experiments he conducted were entirely accurate. Years later, Tigay admitted that she herself had also been skeptical and conflicted about the existence of Bridie Murphy. "Do you know what I think about Bridie? I don't. She didn't really change my life to the extent that I had to sit down and reflect on that person." In an interview with the St. Petersburg Times in 1987, Tigay shared this. Tigay also did not exploit her sudden fame for personal gain. Tigay turned down up to $50,000 from publishers when they asked her to recount the bizarre story and the resentment she harbored. Tigay passed away in 1995 due to cancer. Ben Stein claimed he stopped researching hypnosis after the experiment with Bridie Murphy. He lived in seclusion and became a philanthropist, frequently donating money to build facilities in Pueblo and establishing funds for local universities. Over time, strange visitors no longer sought out Ben Stein. The only 2 people he met were his housekeeper and a business partner. Ben Stein dismissed all criticism, asserting that he was a master deceiver when he told the world the unbelievable story of Bridie Murphy. However, when this case attracted media attention, some reporters went to Ireland to investigate and found that the information provided by Tigay had many inaccuracies. The details about the town said to be Murphy's birthplace did not match local records. Tigay recounted that in her past life, she lived in a wooden house, but in reality, in the place considered her hometown, no wooden houses existed at all. It turns out that Bridie Murphy Cowell was once the neighbor of Tigay's teacher, Mr. Gow, though. It's very likely that she heard stories about Ireland from that very neighbor, and this information then surfaced during hypnosis sessions, leading her to mistakenly believe they were memories from a past life. The case of Bridie Murphy is a very clear illustration of what truly happens in past life regression hypnotherapy. In this process, the phenomenon of source amnesia plays an extremely important role. We must remember that forgetting is essentially a process in which an individual retains certain information in their mind. This information is inherently deep in the subconscious. In special situations, a person may feel as if they are reliving a specific past experience, while in reality, it is just a memory, or a synthesis of multiple memories that we inadvertently heard somewhere and forgot the source. For the most part, memory is a selective process. Every day, we receive a massive amount of information, and remembering it depends on the importance and relevance of that information. We tend to remember what we want, but in reality, some unwanted memories persist, while other information gradually fades. When this information reappears, we believe it to be a completely new experience. Or, as in the case of Brittany Murphy, we believe it to be a memory from a past life. In hypnosis and past life regression therapy, the subject falling into a suggestible state and following the therapist's guidance also increases the likelihood of false memory phenomena. In a hypnotic state, the hypnotist can easily control the subject's mental state. Therefore, in hypnosis, the hypnotist can easily guide the subject to role-play as a character from a past life. The hypnotist can even do this unconsciously through clever leading questions. When in a suggestible state, the hypnotized subject will follow and comply with the given requests. Currently, this is all the information we can find about the method of past life regression hypnosis. And perhaps, we will need more time for this issue to be fully clarified. Do you believe in reincarnation or the return of a past life? And do you think that using past life regression hypnosis is truly an effective method to explore new horizons in research? Please share your opinion in the comments section below the video. Now the illness has worsened, leaving the entire team helpless. See you all in the upcoming videos. Wishing you all a wonderful day.